Hey y'all, it's DJ Kwe. I'm here live at Hopscotch 10th anniversary. I'm excited to be here, and I have Animalweapon right here with me.
How you doing?
Doing good. And we're gonna do a little interview for you here, like getting some insight into the new album.
All right.
Tell me about it. What can we expect on this new album? How is it different from the others?
So that's kind of hard to pin down because I feel like the whole time it's been kind of a struggle of like figuring out like what the sound is, you know. But I feel like I took some risks on this one. Like there's some stuff I played around with that I haven't before. I did a lot of collaboration, which I've never done before. There's a couple whole songs that I gave like actual co-writing credits out on. So I'm usually a control freak with that kind of thing, and this album, like the single "Know What You Are," that one I had a lot of help, and I feel like the song's better for it. I kind of just started thinking of people I know that I would want to just see what they could do with it, and then it wound up being so much better because of it. So I learned a lot that way. There's some other stuff I experimented with, some sounds I'd never played with before, but I don't know. It feels like it sounds like me, but it feels like kind of a logical next thing,
like a progression.
That. Yeah.
So like talk about how that feels like to kind of like release the control and kind of like let things happen more outside of yourself.
It's tough because, like I said, I'm a huge control freak. So I mean, part of the reason it took so long. It took about 3 years. It came out in May, and that was after about 3 years of work. And part of that was just because I was so set on fine tuning every little bit of it. And I mean, I'm never gonna be happy with all of it. Like, you just aren't.
Yeah, you're never gonna be happy with everything because you don't get everything you want.
No,
so, but it still sounds great. And how many releases does this make? Because like Animalweapon has a lot of music out there that a lot of people don't know about.
So this makes the third like major release, right? So I did an EP a couple of years ago, and then a couple of years before that I had another full length album. So 2 albums and an EP, and then like some one-off stuff in between there, some remixes, but these are like that kind of the bigger bodies of work. So
yeah. Talk about like the Undisclosed podcast, about the case of Adon Saeed and your connection with them, with like writing more like atmospheric type of music. Yeah,
that stuff was fun. I haven't actually had to contribute anything for a while now to that show. As far as I know, I think they're still using some of my stuff on there. But that was cool. That all just happened like over Twitter. I kind of noticed that like that they were very hands-on on Twitter, and I saw that like Rabia was really good. Rabia Chowdhury is the host, and I saw that she was really good with just responding to people on Twitter. So, I guess about 4 years ago now, I like kind of just took a shot, and I was like, hey, free music if you want it. And so I heard back, and the next thing I know, they're like having me write extra new stuff and rework theme songs, and that was cool. It was a really cool experience.
It seemed like you learned a lot from that experience.
Yeah, that was so. That whole thing was different. It's so much different from writing for like an album, because you're not emotionally connected to this stuff, not the same way anyway. Like you're not emotionally, it's not your baby, and so you kind of understand your role, and you're like, well, this just has to be good background music. Like it can't inherently be too good. Like you don't want it to draw attention to itself too much, right? So you kind of just get with a mood and then go for it. And I mean, I only wrote probably a handful of pieces for it. A lot of the stuff that's on the show is like older stuff, or There's a couple cuts from like my first record. There's like a really, really old track that wound up working out well for the soundtrack, and then few years ago we released a soundtrack for that. That was cool. So.
Yeah. So did that like teach you anything that kind of like impacted the album that we're going to hear now?
I think maybe just the overall experimentation, I think. I don't know. It kind of got me. It's good practice, and like it's a good way to keep yourself sharp, because when you're so focused on one goal, it's good to keep working but do something that just feels like it has lower stakes. And I mean, the podcast was great, but you know, the stakes were a lot lower because I didn't have to, you know, tie it to all this like personal stuff, or, you know, it wasn't going to be like the next bunch of stuff that I was going to be playing at shows for a couple of years. So it was kind of fun to just like, you know, bang something out in an afternoon. And that kind of kept me sharp for when I did get back to the album, you know?
So it sounds like you was in like different places and then you had to transition for the album.
Yeah. It was hard to kind of shift gears. I will say that. Like that was weird, because I'd be like in the middle of working on one thing and then I would have to go do a track for Undisclosed, and it would be a completely different mindset. And I mean, it's all, you know, still creative work, but they felt like completely different things, but they kind of informed each other, you know? So
Yeah. So you're on the label of
Polychromatic Records. Yeah.
Polychromatic Records. It's a startup out of Raleigh, right?
Yeah. So Scott is Scott. That's kind of Scott's baby, and I guess I'm just gonna be like the first artist on the roster there. So that's, you know, we released the last 2 records under that, and it's gonna be kind of more, I guess, focused on, you know, more like electronic, synth-driven kind of stuff, weirder stuff.
Yeah.
So I will probably, hopefully I'll wind up being like the least weird on it. I'd like to see, you know, a lot less like poppy stuff.
Oh, okay.
So
that's
take
what
notes, Scott.
So that's what you would like to see.
I mean, yeah, if it were up to me.
That's interesting.
Scott's baby, though.
So past this album, are you going to look to experiment more?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of ideas that I want to play around with, and I might even try releasing something new under, like releasing something under a different name. I've got a couple people that I want to work with, some friends that I've always been meaning to write music with. I'd like to get better at collaboration, and, you know, like I said, the album was like a good kind of jumping off point to be less of a control freak. But I still, you know, I was still like pretty much in charge there, and I'd like to be in a situation where I'm not totally in charge, and like I at least, you know, somebody else has like at least, you know, 50-50 input, and, you know, I don't know, I have no idea how I'm gonna handle that. Like, I might lose it entirely, but
I think you're going to do okay.
we'll see.
Yeah. And so, what is the name of the album again?
The album is called Tyrannosaurus.
Tyrannosaurus. Why is it named that?
You know, it kind of just, as I was working on the title track, it just kind of, it sounded, the title track is really aggressive, and I kind of wrote it to be like kind of bratty, and I that's something I really hope like nobody misses on this record. There's a couple songs on there that kind of, I don't know, I kind of intentionally wrote to be kind of bratty, and I don't know how that's gonna land. I still don't know how people have received that, or if they, you know, if it comes off as like trying too hard, but like it was meant to be like kind of tongue in cheek, but that you know, it sounded aggressive, and it just kind of popped into my head about 2 years before it came out, and I stuck with that. I was like, nope, that's the title.
Is that in the same spirit of your actual name, Animalweapon?
You know, I didn't think about that until way later, but I didn't really think of it that way. But I mean, I guess it fits better, right? So.
Yeah. So, like, how long have you been playing music?
Like live or?
Both.
Okay, so I started playing guitar when I was 12, 13, and I probably plateaued at that by the time I was like 15 or 16. And then, you know, I started doing acoustic gigs when I was probably 19. And then that wound up not being as fun as I'd hoped after a while. And I started trying to like get some bands together, but you know, at the time, like everybody I knew was in college, and I was going to school too, at least like part-time. And it was hard to get everybody's schedules together and all aligned enough to even be able to do a weekly practice, let alone even think about getting, you know, a show together or anything that required like a commitment. So, you know, eventually, at some point I kind of just said screw it and started, at that point I was just starting to play around with like kind of more electronic stuff. And I was like, I did this track Mexican Standoff, which wound up being the first song that came out, kind of as an experiment. And it's funny looking back, I keep forgetting that I was going to call that like my side project to my acoustic like coffee house stuff, and I never went back to the coffee house stuff. So that was because this was, I don't know, it was more fun.
You fully embraced that side.
Yeah, I mean, it was just once I got about most of the way with finishing that track, I was already like, okay, well, clearly I have to do another one after this. And then it was not very long at all that before I was working on an album. It was like, okay, this is the main thing now. And I kind of completely forgot that it was supposed to be a side gig. So.
Then you eventually found Scott, right?
So yeah, Scott, this was all happening while I was going to school at Living Arts College. Don't ask me about Living Arts College. Scott was my professor, and I think he was teaching a couple different classes that I took, and I think one of them was a design class. And I don't know, I think we just kind of started talking about music at some point, and I think he was kind of just like, you know, well, what do you make? And he started listening to it, and I guess he liked it. I remember he actually, while I was still going to school, I think he came to one of my shows and seemed like he was really into it, and then we kind of connected again like a little while later, a year or so later after I got out of school, and you know, the rest is kind of history.
Well, it seems like you guys gonna be making history tomorrow at the Hopscotch Day Party.
That's that's gonna be really, really fun. I'm super excited about it. We've got a lot of there's a lot of really good acts on the bill. I was more of a later addition to it, but you know, so was Body Games is going to be playing. That's always a really, really good show. S.E. Ward, I'm drawing a blank on a lot of the other artists, but Foxture is going to be playing, and they're really, really good friends of mine. We do a lot of shows together, and we kind of have band crushes on each other, if that makes sense. There's a pretty intense bromance going on there. I don't think I'm talking out of turn here. But yeah, it's always good to see those guys. They played it on Monday night over at Neptune's, so it's always good to see them. I had them open up my album release show back in May. That was fun. So I'm excited to be playing with lots of talented artists and, you know, friends. So
how's it feel to do shows like that?
It's awesome. So like day parties in particular are really weird because, I mean, you know, it's Thursday afternoon and you should be at your day job and everybody else should be at their day job. And instead you are playing a show and everybody's drunk and there's actually a turnout. And that's the weirdest part of it is, and then that's just at the venue that you're at, and you kind of know in the back of your mind that you might get more foot traffic at any moment because a bunch of other ones are going on at the same time and somebody could just wander in, you know. Most of the day parties are free. So, you know, that's, I don't know. It's always, day shows are a really, really weird experience, but it's really, really fun. It's always a strange day, but it's always a really fun day.
Okay, where would you rank like the types of shows you do? Like, so day parties might be what, 3?
There's not even a way to rank them, right? Because like, it depends on the venue and the mood that you're in and that particular night. Like, I think my default favorite thing to do is just like shows over at King's. But you know, I've also played, you know, I've played shows out of town where there was hardly anybody I knew there, and those have been amazing. You know, one of the best sets I ever played was in Winston-Salem, actually with Foxture for their EP release, and you know, that was outdoors at this really cool art park, and we had to like hire our own sound guy. It wasn't an actual proper like venue. Yeah. So it kind of just depends on how the show goes, and you know, what mood you're in and what mood the crowd's in, and there's a lot of variables. It's hard to rank that kind of thing.
Yeah. It's all about the feeling and all the emotion. Yeah. How's it feel to be here, like right now, Hopscotch to 10th anniversary?
It's so cool. I'm really excited about this weekend. It's an awesome lineup. I think I'm most excited for Phanogram on Saturday. They're one of my favorite bands. I've seen them a few times now, and I will never miss a chance to see them. So to have them here for Hopscotch is really, really cool.
Right. And remind people again, when's the album coming out? I mean,
album's been out. You could get it on Spotify and iTunes, all that stuff. All the streaming platforms have it, or you can get it from the website from me directly, Animalweapon.com.
Mm-hmm. You can also find you on polychromatic.com as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Animalweapon. We're still here live at WKNC. I mean, we're still live at Hopscotch, and I'm DJ Kwe, and that was Animalweapon. Please check out his music, and we're gonna keep it going. That was Animalweapon with Know What You Are. My apologies for the awkward transition.
You're good, man.
I completely apologize because I missed it, because you said that Foxture was at your May release party, and I didn't make that connection to my head when it comes to the album. You was talking about this recent album. So, yeah. Tell me about the creative process in making this song.
So that one was really fun. I don't totally remember how it started. I think probably drums first. I feel like drums probably came first. I knew I needed something upbeat closer to the start of the record, and I knew that was probably going to sit closer to the beginning. It wound up being a third track, but I knew at that point I kind of wanted to open the record up with like a, you know, something kind of ambient that builds up, and then a couple songs that would be kind of more like a punch in the face, and that one wound up being that. As I got further along into it, I kind of got stuck, I think, on the hook, and that whole song was kind of built around that, you know, that line. I don't think you know what you are. Actually, let me backtrack. I think the drums were probably what I did first, but I remember being at a friend's house, and that line and, you know, the melody, everything, even the harmony, like, popped into my head, and I knew I had to write everything around that. I kind of generally had the idea that it would have what basically wound up being those drums. That's probably what I laid down first, and then probably bass. At a certain point, I got stuck on how to write the chorus and what, like, musically should be going on. So at a certain point, I kind of I picked my friend Alex. He's a good friend from New Orleans, and we kind of have bonded over surprise, surprise, 9 Inch Nails. I mean, I feel like that song probably has a fair bit of that influence on it. And I kind of kicked it over to him, and I was like, do you want to just play around with this and see if you come up with anything? Because I feel like the chorus needs something else going on in there, and I don't know what it is. So he's like, cool, I'm going to mess around and just go nuts for a couple of days, and I'm going to send you back everything I do, and you can use it or not, but like I'm going to go wild. So he sent me back some stuff, and I mean, I think he did most of this stuff in GarageBand. And GarageBand, yeah. So, and I think a lot of it, I'll have to find out for sure, but I want to say a lot of it was GarageBand on his phone. Because so his computer was out of commission for a little bit, and he was kind of relegated to just being like, well, I've got to do like something. So he was just kind of playing around with the GarageBand app on his phone and sending me all this work that he had been doing around the time. And I was like, you did this on your phone, dude? And he was like, yeah, at the bar. Like,
I can imagine Alex just chilling at the bar and
yeah,
just like working on music, just working on
and
it.
like, I don't know for sure if he worked on it at the bar. I don't want to tell tales out of school. But he, he did at least a fair bit of that just like on his iPhone. He sent, I had him send me back audio and MIDI stuff, and some of the stuff that he did MIDI, I would shift over to other instruments. Some of it I kept as just straight audio, exactly how he sent it to me. Barely even touched it in the mix, because a lot of it already sounded like just really good and fit very well into the space that was kind of open. So, and then at a certain point, I knew, because the first thing I came up with in my head was like the harmony. I wanted to try I was going to sing it myself, but I also wanted to try having backup singers. I was like, all right, we're already collaborating with Alex here. And so I asked my friend Joy to sing backing vocals, and she came over and got all of those done in like one night, I'm pretty sure. And then my friend James, who I've pretty much only heard sing ironically. I've never heard him like belt something out, but I had a feeling, and I knew that this would be perfect for him. So I, had him come over one afternoon and, showed him the spots that needed it. And James got every one of his takes, every one of his parts done. I think there's like maybe 3 different parts that he had to do, and he did every one of those in like 3 takes or less. It was insane. Like his timing, his pitch was spot on. There was one harmony that he does right near the end, and it was, that was the first part that he did, and he kind of jumped in there and he was like, I have a harmony in mind, let me do something. And I was like, okay. So he belts it out, and I hadn't thought of that one, and it was perfect. And it's that last harmony right near the end. And then there was another part that I didn't ask him to do it, but it was in my head, and he just did it. Like, and I had been kicking around whether or not I was going to ask him to do this other harmony part, and then he just goes and does exactly what was in my head. So that was a really cool experience. Just having somebody get in there and like,
just take your
just
idea,
go for it, and with
you didn't even say anything.
I didn't have to say anything. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So everybody kind of contributed their own little thing. Like Alex wound up giving me a bunch of cool stuff back that I actually, I wound up using in the chorus, and then it became the synth solo in the middle. Like, honestly, I feel like Alex gave me enough for this song that I wound up, crediting him as a co-writer, which I've never done before. And then Joy and James each kind of, brought their own little unique thing to it, and that's one of my favorite things I've done.
Yeah, I can kind of hear that, little tension of like you had to let go a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I can see that it was tough to like let go and just kind of like let other people kind of like into your kind of creative bubble.
Yeah.
And into that process, but it made for beautiful music.
Well, thanks. I'm super proud of that one.
Yeah. So this next song, Fourth Quarter.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Honestly, like for most of these songs, I kind of prefer to just let them speak for themselves. This one was an earlier song, and I remember gosh, it was probably the second or third song that I got started working on, and I think by the time I had that one and like one or two of the other ones going, I knew that I knew I was starting to get a general idea of where the record was going. But I feel like Fourth Quarter is one of the best tracks on there, and production for that one took a while. I kind of sat on it for a little bit while I kind of fine-tuned what I wanted it to be, but I'm super proud of that one.
Super proud of the work you've done. And it's beautiful music, and I wish you the best of luck. And
thanks, man.
You can see Animalweapon tomorrow at the Hopscotch Day Party.
That's the Wicked Witch. Yeah.
Yeah, Wicked Witch, 401 West South Street, Raleigh. And it's a free show.
Yeah.
So please come out and support. And we got more Animalweapon on the way, but I know you have to go.
Yeah.
So, Fourth Quarter by Animalweapon. Thank you for this great interview.
Thanks a lot, man.